Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. We are rejoicing. We are glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. And so we celebrate what God has done and what God is doing. We are grateful for life and for another opportunity to study together. We're grateful for another opportunity to acknowledge what the Lord has done and is doing and what we believe the Lord will do. And so, as always, we give you an opportunity to drop one thing you're thankful for in the chat. If you're able to just drop one thing you're thankful for in the chat, even as we stop to say good morning to my mom. Good morning. Love you. Good morning to Sister Veronica. Sister Conaway, good morning. Sister Portia, good morning. Miss Randolph, good morning to you. Brother Parker, good morning, sir. Miss Pearl, good morning. And Miss Cole, good morning to you. And certainly good morning to all who might come this way today. So this morning we're going to spend a few moments in Psalm 17. Psalm 17, and then it's my hope that I can do the sister or the brother to this text out of Exodus on tomorrow. So we will see what tomorrow holds. But for now, Psalm 17, it's a prayer of confidence in final salvation. Good morning to Miss Karen and Miss Wingfield and Reverend Jackie. Good morning, and yeah, good morning. It is a prayer. It is a lament that is framed as a prayer, and so it's very clear when we read through Psalm 17 that the psalmist, who's been ascribed to David, a prayer of David, is being unjustly accused of wrongdoing. So of course, then we put this. It could be in the context of either Saul or Absalom, but most scholars believe it's Saul, this situation of Saul. And he begins this psalm, as we will note in a moment, by petitioning God to hear him and to rightfully or righteously vindicate him. That's in verses 1 and 2. Then in verses 3 through 5, he asserts his innocence. The way I frame it is he states his case in verses 3 through 5. And then he again petitions God for refuge and for protection from his enemies in verses 6 through 9. And then in verse 10 through 12, he tells us what the enemy is doing, why he needs God to protect him in this moment. And then he asks God to confront these men and deliver him. That's in verses 13 through 14. And then he declares his confidence that he will experience God's presence, not only in this life, but almost it seems to imply in the life to come. And that's in verse 15. So that's kind of the frame. That's kind of the outline, the structure that we're going to be working through. And so let's just go ahead and jump on in and get to work. So he says, hear a just cause, O Lord, and attend to my cry. Give ear to my prayer, which is not from deceitful lips. He says, let my vindication come from your presence. Let your eyes look on the things that are upright. And so the first thing David does in this text is he states his request. And in stating his request, what he's suggesting is that he needs God to address this issue. He needs God to respond and to answer the inquiry. He wants his vindication to come from God and not from himself. And I think that's important for all of us. You know, we can get into these moments and situations where we're trying to explain us, things and vindicate ourselves. and trying to, justify our actions or what we've done. And David, I think, teaches us a better way. He teaches us to take it to the Lord in prayer and allow God to vindicate us, allow God to respond and to answer to those things. Because oftentimes what I found, somebody may accuse you of something, much like they're accusing David of things, and they accuse you of something. You trying to explain it away. You trying to say, no, that ain't who I am. And then it's almost as if they believe the lie more than they believe the truth. They believe what you're saying. And so when we allow God to vindicate us, what we are saying is that God has the power and the ability to expose the lie that is being told. He has the ability to expose that which is being shared in a way that is trying to hurt you and assassinate your character, if you will. He says, let my vindication come from your presence. And then he says, let your eyes look on the things that are upright. And so David believes that God is able to vindicate him. And I need us to see this as well. We'll see that at the end, that this psalm opens and closes and with righteousness. In verse 1 and verse 15, it ends with this call for righteousness, because David wants God to examine him and vindicate him before his enemies. So even in David's request, not only is David saying, Lord, I need you to handle this, but I also need you to examine me, to make sure that there is no truth in what they're saying. That's another aspect, another part of this piece, right? That I'm asking God to examine me, to look into this heart of mine, and to see if there's anything that's lurking in my heart that may be worthy of them saying the things that they're saying. Maybe there is some truth to what they're saying. And so, Lord, I just need you to examine me. I need you to look in the deepest recesses of my soul and in my heart. I need you to look in those places, in those shadowy places where I may have a blind spot. And I need you, Lord, to examine me. And then you examining me, I need you then to vindicate me. And so that's the first part of his prayer. Attend to my cry, hear a just call. This is a just cause. I'm a righteous person. I'm trying to live upright. I'm trying to live with integrity. And I'm being accused and of some things that I have not done or said. And God, I need you to examine me, first of all, to make sure that what they're saying is not true. And then, oh God, when that is found to not be true, Lord, would you just vindicate me? Would you step into the midst of this and vindicate me? Let your eyes, he says, look on the things that are upright. I am innocent. I'm innocent. And all he's trying to do is convince God to move on his behalf. And we don't have to do that. God will vindicate us. God is the lifter of our heads. I'm appreciative of these prayers because it gives us opportunity to talk through these things. But we don't ever have to worry about that. God is going to defend the innocent. God looks out after us. And so we don't have to worry about those things. We don't have to protest our innocence. We know we haven't done anything. And we know that ultimately God will vindicate us. God will come because he's a God of justice. He's a God of justice. He's a God of judgment. And God will judge the living and the dead. God will vindicate us. God will take care of us. So the first thing he asked for is that God would vindicate him and examine him. But then look at what he does in verses 3-5. He says, you have tested my heart. You have visited me in the night. You have tried me and found nothing. I have purposed that my mouth should not transgress concerning the works of men. By the word of your lips, I have kept away from the paths of destroyers. Uphold my steps in your path, that my footsteps may not slip. Lord, here it is. Lord, you have tried me. And you know there's nothing in me that looks like what they are saying about me. You have tested me. You tested my heart. You visited me in the night. You have tried me and have found nothing. I am indeed innocent. I am not guilty of what they say. And so he says in that moment then, and I've not only that, I haven't even gone back and forth with them. I haven't tried to defend myself. I haven't allowed them to pull me down to their level. I have purposed that my mouth shall not transgress concerning the laws of men. I'm not going to break your laws because of what they are doing. I'm not going to put my mouth on it. I'm just going to leave it alone. And he says, by the word of your lips, I have kept away from the paths of your destroyer. Here's another thing. I'm not going to act the way they act. So not only am I not going to speak on it, not only has God tested me and tried me and found me found me innocent. Not only am I not going to speak on it, but watch, I'm not going to act on it either. I'm not gonna act. I'm not gonna act. Listen, they trying, Reverend Jackie, to pull it out of me, but I'm not going to react. I'm not gonna speak on it, and I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to let them pull me back into that space and place where I handle things with the fist and with the words, and I'm not going to let them pull me back into that space. And then I'm simply asking in my prayer that God would uphold my steps in that path, that I may not slip. I don't want to slip. I don't want to fall back into that lifestyle, into that way of living and thinking and reacting and responding. And so he says, by the words of your lips, I have kept away from the paths of the destroyer. In other words, I'm not going to do what they do. That's simply what he's saying. I'm not going to do what they do. I'm going to stay in God's path rather than following the ways of the violent. And David had when it came to Saul, David had multiple opportunities to put his hands on Saul, to really bring harm and hurt to Saul. And he said, I'm not going to touch God's anointed, and I'm not going to do God's prophets any harm. Good morning, Deacon Kid. Good morning, Sister Mitchell. Good morning, Sister Strand. Good morning, Sister Sales and Sister Carleen. I'm not going to do that. And that's a great place to be. That shows our growth. It shows our maturity in this walk, when I don't have to respond to everything. I've said it before, and it's cliche as now, but I don't have to fight everything, and I don't have to fight everybody. I just don't. There's some things that people do. I just let it go on. And then I pray to God for vindication. I pray to God that people will see it for what it is, right? And I don't have to raise my finger. I don't have to raise my voice. I don't have to try to justify my actions. I don't have to tell the story and retell the story over and over again, because I know that God has tested me. I know that God has visited me in the night hour. I know that God has tried me, and he has found nothing like the truth in what they are saying about me. And there's no justification for what they're trying to do to me. And so I just leave it in the hands of the Lord and allow the Lord to vindicate me. Listen, God said, vengeance is mine. I allow God to fight that battle. I don't get in the mix, and I just stay above it. Like Michelle Obama told, I don't, when they go low, I go high. I don't allow them to pull me into that mess. And that's the same thing David is praying. He said, Lord, I've done well to this point, Lord. This is his prayer. This is how honest David is in his prayer. And we ought to be as honest as well. Good morning, Miss Carter, and good morning, Sister Charlene. This is how honest David is in his prayer. Lord, I've been good to this point. I've been good to this point. But I need you, God, to help me from slipping. I need you to uphold me and hold my steps in your path, in your way, the way of love and the way of righteousness, the way of justice. I need you to uphold that path, that my footsteps may not slip. And then look at what he does next. After he asks God really to vindicate him and to examine him, and then he asks God really in verses 6 through 12, really he's asking God to protect him, to keep him. Look at what he says. He says, I've called upon you, for you will hear me, O God. Incline your ear to me and hear my speech. Show your marvelous loving kindness. That has to do with God's loving kindness, has to do with his mercy. By your right hand, O you who save those who trust in you. From those who rise up against me, keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me under the shadow of your wings from the wicked and who oppress me, from my deadly enemies who surround me. Here's the situation. It's a deadly situation. It is perilous. It is a difficult place to be in. Look at what he says. I've called upon you, for you will hear me, oh God. The first thing he reminds us, as he reminded us earlier, is that we can be assured of this reality, that when we call upon the Lord, he hears us. We dealt with some of that yesterday in Bible study in First Samuel, that when we call upon God, God hears our prayer. He answers, he hears. He says, incline your ear to me and hear my speech. Show your marvelous loving kindness or your mercy by your right hand. In other words, Lord, keep me, preserve me, protect me. That's literally what he's saying. You who save those who trust in you. Same thing that Samuel said on yesterday. From those who rise up against them, keep me as the apple of the eye. Remember, the apple of the eye rather is some place that is very sensitive and it has to be protected. And so what he's saying is, Lord, I'm vulnerable in this moment, and I'm the apple. I need you to protect me like you would protect the eyes. Keep me as the apple of your eye. But not only do I need you to protect me, but also, Lord, if I found favor in your sight, if I'm the apple of your eye, Lord, I need you to preserve and to keep me. Show me your favor. And here's the reality. Here's the truth for all of us, that when we find favor with the Lord will keep you. When you find favor with the Lord will preserve you. He will protect you. You know, another word for favor is grace. Is unearned, undeserved, unmerited, uncontrollable favor. Grace, that's what grace is unmerited, uncontrolled, undeserved favor of God. And so what he says, Lord, if I found favor in your eyes, keep me as the apple of your eye, because I am vulnerable in this moment. And then he says, listen, hide me under the shadow of your wings. Hide me under the shadow of your wings. Some scholars believe he's talking about the cherubim. Keep me close to you. Keep me under your presence. But he also could be talking about how a young hen protects her young. Either way, it's speaking of protection. It's speaking of a hiding place. It's speaking of a fortress. It's speaking of a place in God where God is able to protect us because of our relationship and our fellowship with God. He's saying, Lord, remember me. Remember the relationship, the fellowship that we have. And I'm asking simply that you would keep me, protect me as the apple of your eye, and that you would hide me under the shadow of your wings. And then look at what he says, from the wicked who oppress me, from the deadly enemies who surround me. And so this gives us a sense of this situation. David is being surrounded. He's surrounded by his enemies. But I remember something David said. I remember something he said, Miss Carter. He said in Psalm 27, he says, even when they surround me, even though the army encamp around me, he says, even in this will I be confident. I remember him saying that. I remember reading that. I remember I've recited it and cited it many times before. Even when the armies encamp around me, even in this will I be confident. And that's what I believe David is believing today. He's saying he's believing that God will keep him as an apple of the eye, that God will keep him in the shadow of his wings, even though the enemy is all around him. God is able to protect us and to keep us. That's a word for somebody this morning, because they may be surrounding you, but God is able to keep you and protect you. There may be things that are happening in your life right now. You feel closed in and camped in and boxed in, but God is able to keep you as the apple of his eye. He's able to keep you and hide you under the shadow of his wings. God is able to protect you. He's able to preserve you. He's able to keep you. Reminds me of another psalm. Psalm 121 tells us that he is our keeper. He's the shade at our right hand. The sun is not able to strike us by day, nor the moon by night. It reminds me that when we're in God's hands, we're in good hands. When God has his hands on us, there's no one that can pluck us out of God's hands. When God is leading us and guiding us and direct us, when we're in relationship and fellowship with God, what can man do to us? I don't fear man in that moment, because what can man do to us unless God allows it to happen? And David is calling upon the Lord to say, Lord, don't let it happen. As you've done so many times before, keep me. That word for keep me literally means God has done it before. He says, keep me. I am currently, let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. Maybe this will make it help it. I am currently the apple of your eye. And Lord, just keep me. Keep me that way. Lord, preserve me and keep me in that position, in that way. And David has the confidence to ask that of God in prayer. So again, here we are. We've dealt with the vindication. I need you to vindicate me. I need you in verses 6 through 12. I need you to protect me. And then look at what he says next in these concluding. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to verses 10 to 12. I didn't finish 10 to 12. And then he says, they have closed up their fat hearts with their mouths. They speak proudly. They have now surrounded us in our steps. They have set their eyes crouching down on the earth. Look at they lay in wait. They lay in wait as a lion is eager to tear his prey, and like a young lion lurking in secret places. They are laying in wait. And so David just simply says, I'm giving it all to you, God. I can't be worried about what they're doing and what they're planning and what they're thinking. I don't have time to worry about all of it. I'm going to give that to you, God. Listen, they have closed up their fed hearts. They're greedy. They've closed up their hearts, and with their mouths they speak proudly. We're gonna get them this time. We got them. They've forgotten. They forgotten, Miss Pearl, who your God is. They've forgotten, and so their fed hearts, their insensitivity. Um, as a lion, they're preying on us. They are insensitive to human needs. This is what he's communicating. They are looking for opportunities to destroy us and you, Miss Gregory. They're looking for an opportunity. They're laying in wait. And so that's why David says, Lord, I just need you to keep me and to preserve me and to protect me. And then look at what happens in verses 13 through 15. Verses 10 through 12 almost act as a transition. It's transitionary verses. It connects what came in verses 1 through 9, and it's going to connect what comes now in verses 13 through 15. It's almost transitional. And so look at what he says in relationship to the transition. He says, listen, he says, arise, O Lord, confront him and cast him down. Rise up, God. Rise up, O Yahweh. Rise up. Um, Act, move on my behalf. It, it, it indicates a sense of urgency in this situation. Remember, if we use 10 and 12 as transition, watch this. They are surrounding them with their stuff. In other words, they're getting closer and closer, and they're lurking. And so you never know which corner they're around, which rock they are behind, which cave they are hiding in. And remember now, when David was running from Saul, remember there were a couple of times where Saul threw spears at David. He caught David slipping, and he threw the spear at David. And so David is saying they're all around us, first of all, and they are lurking. That's the enemies. And he says, listen, God, I need you to rise. This situation is urgent. I need you to act quickly on my behalf to subdue my enemies and deliver me. And so this third portion of this psalm is really about rescue. That we need God to save us. We need God to rescue us. And that's what David is declaring this morning. Rise, Lord, I need you to confront him and cast him down. And I need this done as quickly as possible. Deliver my life from the wicked with your sword. Lord, fight this battle for me. Fight this battle for me with your hand from men, O Lord, from men of the world who have their portion in this life. I love this portion. Whose belly you fill with your hidden treasure. They are satisfied with children and leave the rest of their possession for their babes. Here's what David is declaring in this morning. Lord, I need you to arise, right? And deal with this situation. It has become urgent. It has become dangerous. It has become a matter of life and death. And I need you, God, to rise up and to fight this battle. And then look at what he says after that. He says, because with your hand from men, O Lord, from the men of the world who have their portion in life. What he's saying is basically the Lord, if you take your hands off of them, if you put your hand on them and take your hand off of them, take your hand off of them in terms of the blessings that they receive, because what he's saying is they've received blessings in this life, right? Your sword, your hand on them is your judgment, but he's saying they have been blessed in this life. He said, with your hand from men, O Lord, from men of the world who have their portion in this life. These are persons who have been blessed, who have received the favor of God, whose belly you fill with your hidden treasure. They are satisfied with children, and they leave the rest of their possession for the baby. Lord, you have blessed them. And in your blessing of them, watch this, they have in turn tried to hurt me. Oh boy. Oh boy. What do we do? How do we respond when the ones who are trying to hurt us are the very ones God is blessing? It's evidence that God has his hands on them. He says it right here. They have their portion in this life. They're living a good life. You almost wonder, it almost leads you to wonder, Brother Parker, why they even concerned about you. They have a portion of this life. Their bellies are full with hidden treasure, David says. They are satisfied. They have children, and the bellies are full. And whatever, listen, y'all, whatever they're not able to consume in this life, Lord have mercy. Whatever they're not able to use in this life, listen, they pass it on as an inheritance to their babies, to their children. And they got time to come after us. God has blessed them, and they got all this going on. And so it's a reminder, y'all. It's a reminder, y'all, that sometimes the greatest attacks we experience are from those who when we look at them, like we're thinking they got it going on. They're blessed. But they see something in us. And it creates in them what they created and saw, this sense of jealousy and envy and angst. Anger and animus. That's the word I was looking for. Animus. I don't know why, but it just does. And you're looking at them like, man, they got it going on. They got the portion of this life. They got the stomachs are full. They got children, right? And we know that children in that worldview was a gift. It was a blessing. It was considered a blessing. What they don't use in this life, they pass it on, and they got time to attack, to assault, to come after us. David is not understanding. And so he says in verse 15, and really in verses 13 through 15, Lord, I just need you to rescue me. I need your salvation. I need you to confront Saul. I need you to confront his enemies. And even in those verse 14, those 14 verses, that 14th verse is very difficult to interpret. And most scholars have difficulty, but what it seems to suggest is that as good as God has been to these folks, the only reward they're going to have is in this life. And verse 15 helps us to understand it. If we were to look at 14 by ourselves, our understanding and interpretation of the scripture would be limited, because we would say, well, yeah, these folks got it on. Why are they turning on us? But what David is really arguing, what he's ultimately arguing is this, that they have it good in this life, but it's only for this life. That this portion, this feeling, this satisfaction, this leaving of possession is only for this life, because David is now helping us understand that there is a life to come, and there's going to have to be an account given. And so when he says, with your hand from men, O Lord, and as he talks about the judgment, what he's literally saying in verses 14 and 15, if you combine the two, so let me read 15, as for me, I will see your face in righteousness, and I shall be satisfied when I awake in your likeness. So what he's saying is, in the life to come, not only do I believe, oh God, that you will move in this life. I need y'all to get this. Not only do I believe you will vindicate me in this life, but I also believe you will give me victory in the life to come. And the ones who are trying to hurt me and harm me will only have their reward in this life. It's almost like what Jesus said about those who are praying in front of other people, and they're praying with all this great show and all of this demonstrative behavior. He said they already got their reward. And that is essentially what David is saying. They've already received their reward. And David says, I'm looking to that which is to come. I believe God's going to vindicate me in this life, but I also believe that I will receive victory in the life to come. And so he says, even when I die, he believes that the Lord will not desert him. He says, I will be awakened and given a glorious body, and I will see God's face. And then he says, I will be satisfied. I may never be satisfied in this life, but I believe God will vindicate me. But I may never receive what some of these men in this psalm have received. I may never feel like I have this great portion in life. I may never feel like my belly is ever filled. I may never feel like I'm satisfied in any area of life. I may not have enough to pass on to anybody else, but I do know this much, that I believe I will be vindicated in this life. That's the prayer, that you will vindicate me in this life, and that you will give me victory in the life to come. And so that is what David is praying this morning in this individual lament that is formed and fashioned in a way of a prayer. And so this morning, as we're dropping names in the chat, just want to say this, remind us of this outline one more time. Lord, I need you to vindicate me. I need you to protect me. And then I need you to save me. And so that is the outline for this psalm this morning. As always, as we're dropping names in the chat, we're preparing for corporate prayer this evening. As always, we thank you for your presence, your participation, your prayers, and your patience. We thank you for supporting the ministry, and we thank you as always for the privilege and opportunity to pray for you and with you. And so we will be lifting those prayers up on today. If you just drop the names in the chat, and I see the names are being dropped in the chat, and so we will come back and call those names in about an hour and pray for those folks. In the meantime, we're praying for each and every one of you. We're praying God's continued blessings upon you, that the Lord will bless you and keep you, that the Lord will make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you, that the Lord will lift up his countenance upon each and every one of you and grant you peace. God bless you. For those who are joining us at 7:30, we look forward to hearing your voice. For those who are joining us tonight at 6:30, we look forward to hearing your voice there. And for the rest of you, if it be God's will, we will see you on tomorrow morning. Amen. God bless, and may heaven continue to smile upon you.